Let's bring J.C. Herz in on this, Senior Vice President of Software Supply Chain Solutions at the firm Exiger. It sounds nice to say, all right, here's the U.S. and China. They found a common enemy, and they're going to work to come up with solutions. Is that really what's going to be happening in Geneva, or are they at odds at what's next with how to deal with AI?
AI and all software is a contested domain. So what we are seeing is the way that it is contested. So at Exiger, when we look at a supply chain for a software or a device, we see this. We see this play out. There's all kinds of foreign ownership control issues with nation states and nation state-owned corporations. And so everyone is kind of vying for influence and control of this. And that is what we are seeing play out.
So that's what we've talked about in regular old technology for years and years, IP and all the rest. And now we're seeing a similar battle, it sounds like, from what you're saying when it comes to artificial intelligence. Of course, artificial intelligence, we always have this fear that it's going to lead to something, catastrophic down the line, that there's going to be some sort of a miscalculation, as people put it. Is that a legitimate fear now with the U.S. and China and, everything that's happening, from what's happening here on Earth to what's happening in space? I mean, what are you concerned about?
Well, as more and more of this software moves into critical infrastructure, there is more and more opportunity for all of that to serve not only as a collection mechanism, which is why we banned Huawei, but also as an operational step, right? So we've seen warnings from the FBI that there are nation-state adversaries in our electricity, in our water systems, and you don't want those things to stop working.
So I'll put up the Washington Post. I'm sorry to interrupt. Let me put up the Washington Post headline, and then you can continue with that quote, that thought, because it's probably related to this quote anyway. U.S. and China on these talks that you and I have been talking about. But at the bottom, the quote about officials say the wars of the future will increasingly be fought with AI, helping to make complex decisions in the heat of the moment. So continue with what you were saying, and I was going to add to that. Do we need the U.S. and China and everybody else just come up with a new set of rules for all of this?
Well, I think, first of all, you need transparency on what the landscape actually is. So when we take apart the software supply chain for AI, we see that there are thousands of Chinese developers working for universities and Chinese companies who are actually maintaining it and who understand it and how to compromise it. And this is something that we really need to understand. The software, it doesn't come out of nowhere. It's like Soylent Green. It's made of people. And whose people are working on it is very, very important. So the Chinese want to push things like, oh, if it's open source, it's all right. But if it's open source and it's maintained by thousands of Chinese nationals, we need to assure it to a higher level. It doesn't matter that it's open source. It's developed, maintained, and controlled by an adversarial country.
And is that what's happening now?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That and it's open. It's part of China's 5-year plan to say we're going to dominate open source. And so there's all this Chinese money moving into institutions like the Linux Foundation and Eclipse, and that is being executed. That strategy is being executed. So we need transparency on this landscape, and we need to understand who is funding things and why. And that's what supply chain illumination kind of has to do in a geopolitical realm, but also in the commercial realm. It
makes a lot of sense. It sounds like there's a lot of work to do. So we'll see where they move tomorrow on all of this. J.C. Herz, always good to have you on. Thanks very much. We appreciate it.